Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast and the YouTube channel called The Feeling Called Life. My name is Shubham, and this is an effort to just put yourself out very vulnerably. And as I've seen in my life, that magic happens when you become vulnerable. People relate to you and they understand that you're not putting on all those masks. So, I might not have a very huge audience or fan base. I am not making any cringe content. I'm not good at dancing. I'm not good at oi hoi 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 hoi. So just basic stuff, just me and you talking. You hear it out. If you subscribe to the thoughts, then you go on with that. So today we'll be talking about a topic which is really close to my heart and which is the sweet point of meeting of spirituality and science. And pardon if there is some background in the audio. I live in a noisy place, but if I could just start saying this, that the way I have perceived life to be, I think there is so much more to what we see and what we hear. Basically, the sensorial perception. And during my own spiritual journey, I've been through Vipassana multiple times, I've been through Zen meditation, I've been through some Tibetan texts. I come from a Hindu family, so a lot of, you know, Eastern folklore and mysticism also is something that I would say that I've tried to explore. So, and lately I've been very fascinated by the idea of how the science is graduating and how the ancient wisdom always said it, that this is the way it is and this is the way it's gonna be. So putting these two things into perspective, I would start my talk from asking you guys, my lovely audience, that if at all you've had any experience whatsoever which transcended the space time, as in you're sitting somewhere and you have an experience that you're not there, you're somewhere else. Could be in a dream, could be in a lucid dream, could be in a state of meditation, could be just in a state of daydreaming, could be when you're going to a shop, could be when you're driving, could be anywhere. And if that has happened, then what is your inference of it? So I'll share some of my experiences, like I have come to know of it from various amazing times that life has offered. And I think that I am very certain of the fact that reality is a deeper level exploration, and all that is seen by the eyes or heard by ear is kind of a zoomed out version of what things are really. And as if you listen to Donald Hoffman, and he proposes the theory of observer, and he's still working onto it. And also, I like to bring Thomas Campbell a little bit later, but as of now, the works of Donald Hoffman say that when we move into the dimensions of 10 to the power minus 42 and 10 to the power minus 33 centimeters, the reality as we see it stops making sense. And same with time, if you move into 10 to the power minus 43 of a second, the space-time continuum sort of disrupts. So now we know the exact values, that this is where it is happening, this is where the Planck's constant is, this is where I'm sort of not even imagining, this is sort of where the reality is getting beyond where you thought it would end and stops making sense there. And also something that is from the, again, great works of Thomas Campbell. Let me bring in and introduce Thomas Campbell really quick here. So Thomas Campbell, another great guy I really like, and he proposed something known as the theory of everything in his books called My Big Toe. So, in his books of trilogy of My Big Toe, he says that if we run from Newtonian laws and Darwin's laws and how Newton described the space-time fabric to be, we cannot define consciousness, and he defines consciousness as a big system of information. That means that we are a part of a collective whole, which is sort of what we call God, and that each entity of that collective whole is so intelligent, bearing the same characteristics, maybe just a bit maybe toned down from what we call the collective whole, but given the fact that you are an entity of it, makes you almost akin to God. And this is with each one of us. It's not that, you know, the consciousness that resides within dog, or the consciousness that resides between an ant or an earth form or a lion or a human or a tree. They're essentially all connected, and this is all one. In Zen meditation, they taught me something very, very simple in Zazen classes, and it goes like, form is emptiness and emptiness is form. And then when we translate this, it translates to that, say my hand that you see as a physical object of matter, this and the air which is between what you can see me speaking and the camera is the same. And it's a very difficult concept to understand and grasp, and I'll try to bring in some more concepts, and we'll talk a lot more about it in my forthcoming sequences. But as of now, understand this, that when we say form is emptiness and emptiness is form, we are saying that essentially there is the same fabric that is making the spaces is what it is making us in the carbonic form, like in the form of matter. But the only difference is that maybe what I have come to understand of it is maybe because the entity called consciousness needs a host. The collection of matter comes together in a cohesive condition wherein the organism in which the soul resides can have its purposes. Now I'll jump back again to Donald Hoffman and give you the example of a golden beetle, a jewel beetle. So jewel beetle, guys, males can fly, females cannot. Very famous example. Thanks Donald Hoffman for giving this analogy. So some people, so these jewel beetles, they are very attracted by the need to mate, and in order to mate with a female, their understanding of a female jewel beetle is that she's got to be dark, like brown, she's got to be glossy, and she has dimples. So same like in a beer bottle called Tubbies or something like that, which was thrown away by some people in the forest. They saw a jewel beetle trying to mate with them. So essentially what he's trying to say is that when we are given with a function, that this is the function for you to perform by the nature, we are given in various degrees of understanding the ways in which we can perform those functions. For example, the jewel beetle had this understanding that okay, the female looks like glossy and brown and dimpled, and one of the basic function of nature is reproduction, so it continued on to mate it. But here comes a very strange analogy, if I may, that if such was the case, and if reproduction was the function for coming here in this planet, and the second function that he talks about is survival. The being needs to be alive in order to reproduce, in order to move this srishti forward, or in order for the propagation of nature. So if you look at it from apart from survival, and apart from reproductive context, uh, what else is it that we can do? What else is the reality all about? Is it simulated or not? And once these two things are understood, that okay, reproduction and survival are the two primordial functions on the nature of which everything living has to sort of rotate around. And after understanding that, I think if we get into Darwinian theory and bring in some perspective from there, and here I would sprinkle some of my not so required gyan here later, but if we bring in Darwin's theory, fittest of the survival of the fittest, sorry, and also the theories of you know Newtonian theories of space-time, we would see that it has taken us a progression of generations to become in the present form that we are. And I don't want to comment about religion, but we will talk about a lot in detail later in another video. But then as humans evolved, some people who made it through, like some people who understood it, that reality is a different fabric, and we will compare it to so many esoteric schools of thoughts in the coming days. Some people who got it, they become the pioneers of the religion, and the people who were the followers, they took a different understanding of what they were trying to say and molded it into what we say the present day so-called religions. So no comments about religions as such, I will just say what I think of it. So if me and you were the same, or me and the dog were the same, and me and the plant were the same, if essentially it was just one energy, then why could there be a requirement for hoarding of resources, or why should there be a need of an inequality in the society? Now again, I'll try to be philanthropic later, but as of now, for the context of this, we walked through the survival and the reproductory functions. But also I'm trying to understand that when you understand the theory of evolution, and you have seen with enough scientific evidence that when a particular species of, say, horses or zebra ran out of food in that part of the desert, and the food was only the trees and the leaves of probably baobab tree which were hanging up, they stretched their necks and eventually became giraffe. If the same thing is applied to the fish kingdom, they would have thought that okay, how it is coming out, and some fishes would have tried to come out, and they would have fished so badly that that they could be able to breathe, and hence the kingdom reptilia was born. And then at some point in time, reptiles wanted to walk, so they grew the limbs, and then there's a whole cycle from where we came from bacteria and protozoa and viruses to the modern day apes, and then to human beings. And the number of iterations, and about dinosaurs, and all that things. So the point in contention being that if a collective group wants a thing badly enough, and they have the intent pure, and it coincides with the collective intelligence serving its purpose of higher good, propagation, more peace, more love, then there is a high probability that it will come to fruition. So again, getting down from the Darwin's theory of evolution and coming to the manifestation side of it. Now if we see in our religion, from a long back time, people have been gathering to perform various sorts of collective intent. Now if you see in form of yajna, I can speak about my religion because I have the knowledge. Of course, there are various religions throughout the world which will, I am sure, would have something similar to serve the similar purposes. So when we say yajna, people would come together and perform the same intent, giving ahuti to the fire. If we say about satsang, people have come together again. And I think the purpose of temples were to act as a holy hotspot wherein people can come and pray and have a common good intention. And when that intention would be strong enough, it would transmit or manifest something akin to the theory of evolution, wherein a collective group of zebras wanting something so bad that the nature rewarded them the capability, and that's how they were able to do it. Now, if you put the same context to human beings, a considerably large group of people wanting something so bad, maybe detached, maybe full of gratitude, but having the same common intent and praying towards it makes a difference. And I've been fortunate to be introduced to some Buddhist monasteries and some Tibetan monasteries, and they pray for common goodness of mankind, and they hold these gatherings wherein people are worshipping for world peace. And this is not only the traditions in Tibetan Buddhism, it's there in general Buddhism, like the Buddhism across the world, and even in theories of Hinduism, and even the theories of Sikhs and the theories of Bible. It's all laid out. But how much of it is what we are following now, I don't know. Yeah, I seriously don't know. And how we are translating it, I don't know. We have seen crusades and we have seen religious wars spanning years and centuries, but we missed out the essential part wherein the collective intent could have blessed the planet with adequate resources and adequate well-being so as to propagate as a species of this planet. But somewhere along the line, the churches came, the popes came, the great empires came, so-called protector of the religions came, protectors of the God came. I don't want to name anybody here, but you know what I'm saying and which all incidents I'm talking. So what we have seen is that there have been so many iterations by so many people who wanted to serve their own purposes at different levels of time, that the narrative that we get now, it's so diluted. And if you go back to your scriptures, you go back to your religious books, you try to find the hidden meaning, and it's all indicating towards understanding the true power of human beings, understanding the true power of collective worshipping, or say chanting. In olden days we used to come together to have kirtans, and now again modern day definition is a little deviated from where it should be. But again, there's a lot of emphasis on how these such of gatherings wherein people came together for kirtan, or people came together for chanting, or people came together to do yoga, or tai chi, or yagyas, or any prayers in collective form. It was from an intent of gratitude and for common good. And now it has become, oh, I'm gonna, if God is gonna give me this, then I will offer you so and so. It does not functions like that. It's not transactional, because it is you who is thinking that the being is a different thing. From the collective consciousness part of view, everybody is the same. There is the same God in every human being, in every being. Maybe dog sees it from a different perspective and he understands life in a different perspective. If you were to be a housefly, you will see world from a different lens. If you were a cockroach, maybe you will see a mosaic. If you were a bee, you will see monochromatic in a different lens. So everybody's understanding of world is different. As apex form of intelligence, if we were to look back and see and understand how things have been functioning. I think it's not rocket science here. And if I can think of it and come to a certain sense of understanding that maybe things are more than what eyes see, I'm sure a little self work in this way would go a long, long way in understanding the part of whole that we are. Yeah. And if I bring in Osho also here, and I understand that some people may shoot me down, oh, you like Osho, his understandings. I'm going to bring so many people in this podcast slowly, nicely, all the experience that I have been, my understanding of life as it is, the parallels that I think I draw. And you can comment down below as to what you think, what was the most agreeable part by you. And if I bring in Osho here, he speaks about living with awareness and many, many other mystics and self aware people talk about awareness. And when we talk about awareness, it's got to do something with self remembering. And I'll bring so much of Carl Jung later. But as of now, I'll just keep it to what does it mean when Osho said, or higher spiritual gurus said, that be aware, be aware, be aware. Hosh mein raho. So I think a lot of that has got to do with understand the power that you are, understand the being that you are, understand that how the collective vibration of human beings can bring about physical changes in reality, and we can fight major disasters, we can fight major famines, we can basically reprogram the reality in some sense by our collective prayers or collective intent of consciousness. And reminds me of the movie Avatar, when the collective chanting led to a central healing. And I am, like, from my intent, 2000% sure that such is the case. And if this was to be experimented, which I think Brahma Kumaris have proved it, if this was to be experimented at a practical level wherein people with a certain disorder are treated via collective energy, so much possible. That's what Reiki is, that's what other sorts of healing is. But we are so stuck up in what the eye sees. I'm not shooting down the developments of science or what doctors prescribe us. I'm just saying that if you were to think of it as a code, if this was all a code, if I was a code, if what you're seeing, what you're listening was all a code, if you were a code, if this table was a code, if this glass was a code, everything was a code, then one possibility of altering the code is to operate it, undergo a surgery, and do all that the eye sees, which is very nice, which functions really good as of now. But I am also of a firm belief that the human fabric, or in fact any fabric which has a consciousness entity living inside, has this power to reprogram itself. And I've experienced this in Vipassana. I've carried out so many experiments on myself. So I do speak out of direct experience. I'm not giving it shot out of nowhere. So if a collective consciousness can bring about a change, I hugely believe there's also a possibility that by changing intent and by strengthening our own willpower, we can treat a lot of what happens to us. Thomas Campbell also talks about two things which are avoiding us to take actions, and that is fear and greed. And as you know, that fear and greed are also two factors which hold us in our capability to achieve the maximum that we could, because we are busy thinking about, oh, if not this, then what? Oh, if I'm not going to make this, then what? And the society has started rewarding intellect so much that we have almost forgotten about our intuitive side and what intuition can do to us. And if I was to relate what Donald Hoffman had to say about the wavelength equation, wherein he's saying that it is known around about on Planck's constant. We'll bring the Young's double slit experiment later. But if we're just working with Planck's constant right now, and just the basic wave equation, the smaller the area it is, smaller the wavelength, and higher is the energy associated with it. That means when you go zooming in into something, maybe your focus, if you're just zooming in into something, at a point that you could almost feel at a cellular level that, okay, I can feel this cell, I can feel my heart beating, and from the heart beating you zoom in, you come to the exact point of the tricuspid valve, and then you further zoom in, and you can carry out this experiment anywhere on the tip of your finger. You zoom your concentration localized to the part of your hand, and then you zoom it and get it to the first point of your finger, and then you further zoom it in and you get it onto a single line of your fingerprint, and then you further zoom it and you are now holding your consciousness at a cellular level. You will see that as you're zooming in, because the area of attention is becoming minimal, you will get associated to higher energy. Same as like a magnifying glass, like if you're putting a magnifying glass on a sun and then you are putting the rays filtering down via convex glass, they concentrate, and when they are concentrated enough, they are so powerful that they can even burn a paper or burn anything. So this is the power of zooming in, and I think, and I'm coming to believe of it from mathematical and spiritual experiences and the latest development in technology and theories, that if you zoom in good enough, you can pinpoint all the power onto a particular area, and that area and its concentration of focus can reprogram the code that me and you are written from. And now this is a subset of what you do as a non-detachment practice, or what you do in Vipassana or in other esoteric traditions. But connecting it mathematically to what the wave equation says about the particle getting smaller and energy associated getting higher. Think of it in terms of nuclear fission or fusion. Think of it in terms of the Large Hadron Collider. And they're building another one, Future Circle Collider, FCC of sorts, wherein it's going to be around 7 times more accurate. Think of it in terms of resolution, 7 times more resolution than the present LHC, that's Large Hadron Collider. FCC is being built in Canada under the Alps, a 91-kilometer long tunnel, so that they can even register finer than 10 to the power minus 17, which is our observable limit right now. So we are pushing to 10 to the power minus 19. And if by any chance we can break it through 10 to the power minus 30, or say 10 to the power minus 35, at a scale wherein by observation, experimentally, we can prove that this is where the reality dilutes. And this is where you understand and you know it, that the fabric of space-time is just a foam, a thick foam. And between that, it's so beautiful that we develop relationships, and we are grateful, and the nature has done its wonder in terms of, having the golden ratio in sunflowers and the flights of the birds and the colors of the rainbow. So I'm talking about reality in structure as it is and the sensorial reality as we perceive it. And though I'm knowing that in the core being, the reality is a different program, maybe it's all a matrix. That's what we call it Maya in Hindu traditions. And if it was all a Maya, then there has been no purpose. Then me becoming a little bit richer or having a more land or getting more air conditioned settings or you know getting some of more physical pleasures could not be the end game. And there has to be so much more to it. There has to be like beyond something which is beyond the physical pleasures. And I think the answer to that would lie in how we are able to perceive the resolution of the reality by scientific means. So a big shout out to Donald Hoffman. Check out his works on YouTube. Big thumbs up to Thomas Campbell. We'll discuss its theory again later. And yeah, big thumbs up to Osho as well, to be very pioneering from his times and to understand that if we are self-aware, if we are able to focus our attention onto something, if we understand that these thoughts are a byproduct of a factory called mind and we do not associate with it, we understand that the consciousness inside is a superpower which is fueling the ATPs, adenosine triphosphates, and they are in turn associated with mitochondria and producing the energy to do the physical functions that we do to serve the purposes of reproduction and survival, and that's how nature goes on. Once we understand this, then suddenly all the statuses makes no sense. There could be hunger eradication, we could develop technologies which are beyond these times, and we could be in a harmonious setting wherein we rise by collaboration and we understand that there is no point in going anywhere because we are all the same. In terms of physical comfort, the more you save this fabric, the more stupider it gets. Like, I have not seen any animal apart from human beings who preserve the fabric so much. And of course, take rest when you're done hunting. Take rests when the basics of gathering or growing your food is done, instead of offloading it or delegating it to somebody else. And between that, when you're physically worked out, you're close to your essence, and that is one of the reasons I came back from UK. I missed the sun so much, and to me sun is so important, so important. It is the waves which are coming from the sun are interacting in some manner with the wave that exists within us in matter form. As you know, the matter and particle theory, wave and particle theory. And if we go into the double slit experiment as well, wherein if two particles were bombarded on a screen at a different time and one was observed and one was not observed, and if you were to observe that the other particle change its form, and this could also go backwards. So like, if they were two dissimilar screen, if you were to be observing one, the other particle can change its form, and that is probably what happens to particles which are quantum entangled. Quantum is very exciting. Like, now we are speaking in terms of qubits, now we are speaking in terms of non-linear progressions. Finally, we are speaking in terms of lattices, we are speaking in terms of collective systems. When we are thinking of agentic artificial intelligence, we are thinking, okay, there are a number of bots which come together and serve a purpose. So we see the purpose, but we don't see the thing that goes behind, but we understand what goes behind. Similarly, if you were to heat a pan, you don't see the molecule vibrating at a really high frequency or water becoming as vapor. You don't see the high level of freedom for the vapor molecule, but what you see is the heat. So stuff that happens in actual and the way we perceive it, it is two very distinct stream of perceptions. And lately I've also realized that there is a different stream of perception between the reality as it hits the media. Like, in reality, if I was to feel cold on this hand, feeling cold is one feeling, or feeling painful if I was to pinch this hand is one feeling, and what goes into the brain and how brain responds to it is another feeling. So there are two sets. One might be driven on pure instinct and the need for survival, and that's why if I were to pinch, it will say no, it's not good, it's bad, it's causing hurt, it's causing pain. But at the behind of it, somewhere in subconscious, it knows that you can endure it. And same is the thing with taking a shower with a cold water or going in for an ice bath. And when you go through such surprises for your nervous system, there's a term called neuroplasticity, and look about this podcast from Hoffman. I'm forgetting his name. Huberman. Huberman has done quite some research on neuroplasticity, and I heartily invite you to go through his works. I'll probably give the link below in the channel. And he talks about neuroplasticity a lot. And I believe when you go through neuroplasticity, it's the same manner of evolution what is happening, which takes a lot of time in physical reality, but you can teach your brain to do right things, to look things differently, to develop a habit through neuroplasticity. And through neuroplasticity also you can build disassociation with a matrix called body. I'm not saying I'm not scared to die, but what I'm saying is that the identification of self as a body has been so long conditioned that when we think of myself, like my name is my identification, my hand, is this me? Or this is my identification. Despite the function of survival and provider and protection and, reproduction, is this me? Or is this the fiber in which the entity called me resides to deliver functions which are required and otherwise? That's my food for thought for you. And I would heartily encourage you to share with me what has been your experiences of reality. What are the things that you agree with? What are the things that you think I should cover in the next podcast? And you should also drop me a hi if you want to come on to a live to ask some Q&A, and I'll try to respond my very best to you. So that's me, nickname Aggie, signing off for now. And this was my first YouTube video in this series. I will keep posting a lot more. We will cover similar topics like this and discuss it. Not argue, but discuss it collaterally, because I think that it's not only me, a lot of people around the globe are getting to awaken to the sort of reality that there needs to be a better understanding of religion, there needs to be a better understanding of what God is, and there needs to be a better understanding of self. So I invite you to join the wagon. I'm sure that you would have crossed your spiritual journey so many times and so well, and I highly invite you to share your stuff with me and let me know in the comments what are the things that appeal to you and what is it that's something that I should speak about more. That's all for now. See you in the next video, and if you like the stuff, please like and subscribe. Cheers. Thank you. Signing off. Bye.